Hey Denchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and welcome to my review of the debut album from the New York-based producer duo The Knocks. This one is called 55. Now, I'll be the first to admit I haven't been the biggest long-time running fan of The Knocks. I've only known about them since the release of Dancing with the DJ, which is, regardless, one of their biggest hits, but I haven't really kept up with them much since then. I heard a little bit of their single with Matthew Koma, I Wish, My Taylor Swift, and just really haven't been keeping up with them in the last couple years when they've actually been putting out probably some of their most solid work to date. A lot of the singles that were building up to the release of this album were actually really solid, and I was really happy when I finally got to listen to this thing and be so surprised at the drastic change from the group that produced Dancing with the DJ and featured on a Matt Zoe track, Get Down to Get Up, just a couple years ago. Now, the Knocks have been heavily known for their, I guess you could say, New York new disco style. Rather than taking a more French house approach to it, it's more of an American-centered and kind of centered around your classic 80s, 90s hip-hop and pop sounds, where synth pop was just getting big and hip-hop was starting to grow as well. Their signature bass lines are just fantastic. It's especially shown off well on this album. I think its major downfall is the fact that so many tracks on this one have that same similar style. Of course, we've got these powerful, punchy bass lines and thoughtful percussion, but on some of the tracks it gets a little redundant, which I think is its major downfall. But honestly, I was really surprised when I first decided to listen to this thing. The album kicks off with New York City, which I think takes a route a little bit closer to maybe Today Was a Good Day by Ice Cube. The percussion style definitely reminds me of that, obviously taking a much different rap approach than Ice Cube did with that track, but basically reminding me of that. And this track makes for one of the most interesting listens on the album. Not only is it extremely catchy, but it doesn't feature that kind of standard Knocks bass line that you hear in almost every other track in this one, so it made for one of the most unique listens on the album. Time and Classic aren't really sticking out to me that much. I kind of like the vocal approach on Time, but Classic, or its counterpart Classic featuring Fetty Wap, aren't that good either. I did like the vocals by Powers, but other than that, I think the track was pretty bland. Then we get into Kiss the Sky, which I think is definitely one of the highlights on this record. I don't typically like Wyclef Jean. I didn't really love his appearance with Avicii, and I haven't really liked his stuff that much in the past, but with this track, they found a way to make the vocals sound extremely good. The production just flows extremely well, and that's one thing I'm definitely going to praise about this album, is the fact that the Knocks can take all these different vocalists across the board. There's tons of pop features on here, and kind of twist their vocals in a way that works with their production style that wouldn't necessarily work. Because we've got like Phoebe Ryan on here, we've got Carly Rae Jepsen, we've got Walk the Moon, ex-Ambassadors, Alex Newell, Wyclef Jean. We've got all these big names on here that you typically wouldn't plan on finding on an electronic album, but Kiss the Sky, so freaking catchy. Dancing with Myself is the first kind of slow and down-tempo track on the album. It was really enjoyable, I think, and Comfortable featuring ex-Ambassadors completely shifts the sound that I assumed from ex-Ambassadors, because what we've heard in like last year's Zed album and like Renegades and the whole VHS ex-Ambassadors album is nothing like you hear on this track. Although I'm not absolutely in love with this song, I think the fact that the vocals are twisted in such a way that it sounds so different from all the other ex-Ambassadors music, it made it really, really enjoyable. Matthew Koma collab sounds incredibly clean, which in terms of production, this thing's absolutely basically spot cleaned. And I've always praised Matthew Koma for his used to be able to pull off kind of an 80s style vocal, all while having this interesting voice, but he's been featured in so much crap in the past couple years. I've come to not like him as much, which is sad. Honestly, I don't think Matthew Koma's production on this really brings anything to it. I think I would have loved to hear what the Knocks could have done with just a vocal track from him, but it does make for a clean and crisp addition to the album, and I think it definitely had its place here. Tied to You featuring Justin Tranter is a little bit more of an electronic song, which was interesting to hear on this one. The whole thing's supposed to be electronic, but in terms of like your modern EDM kind of sounds, I think this track was a little bit closer to that. Now we get to the Carly Rae Jepsen collab, which is kind of the lead single at this point. Love Me Like That, and if you want me to be completely honest with this, I don't think it fits on the record. I think this could have found itself in a very snug position on Carly Rae Jepsen's last album, Emotion, while I don't think it works as good in this album. Now, I'm not meaning to say it's a bad track, it's a very well-produced pop track, I just don't think it fits as well as it could have. Cinderella featuring Magic Man's probably gonna get stuck in your head for a couple days. This one is just your standard kind of alternative rock electronic kind of sound where you get the standard whistling, these heavily indie vocals, which I think definitely worked and does add to the diversity of the album, but I didn't think it was necessarily pushing any boundaries. It is ridiculously catchy though, so I do have to praise it there. Purple Eyes with Phoebe Ryan is one of the most experimental songs on the album. Where I said earlier that it doesn't really fit in the context of it, this one is kind of the same way, where it does sound more of like a Phoebe Ryan standard song than your standard Knox song, and I think it's really cool that they're able to do that, but I just really didn't love it in the context of this record. The closer of the album is Best for Last, fittingly so, with Walk the Moon, and the fact that the vocal style in this is so very different from Walk the Moon's typical stuff, the production style on this is so very different from anything the Knox have done, it doesn't make me think, oh, this would have gone better on the Walk the Moon album. This one brings an amount of diversity to both artists, and I think it definitely worked really well, and it's really exciting to see an artist like that finally pulling from the pop music culture into this, and especially with this entire album, we're just getting so many pop stars, and I think it was really cool. This album definitely wasn't perfect, it has its few flaws, but for the most part, I really like this thing, and I'd like to see where the Knox can go in the future. My major picks were just its consistency. I think it was a little off in some spots, so I'm going to give this one a 7.5. Really did like this record, and I plan on getting it on CD basically as soon as it's available. I definitely encourage you guys to check it out too, so let me know what you think in the comments. If you have listened to the album, if you haven't, I have it linked in the description. And anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this review of the debut Knox album, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.